And Global Affairs Analyst Ayantoye Adewale joins me from Missouri to discuss this. Good to have you join us, Ayantoye. Now, this is now the biggest protest in the U.S. Since the 1992 protest in Los Angeles. Why do you think that this is generating such a level of anger?
Thank you for having me. It's one of the most difficult times in United States history. When you take a look back and you understand how U.S. as a country has operates when it comes to racial situation. It's such an unfortunate situation that happened in Minnesota, and my heartfelt, sincere sympathy to the family of George who are currently going through these terrible experience. But one thing you have to understand is a couple of weeks ago, there is still a very fresh situation that happens in Georgia about an unarmed black man being pursued by two armed white men, and he was shot. So this was a situation that happened earlier in the year. No prosecution, no arrest was made until the video became public. So it was due to public outcry and public anger that led to the arrest of these two white men being arrested for the killing of an unarmed black man. And then just a few weeks after that, another black man was being strangled to death, because if you watch the video, which I have watched over and over again, it's such a very, very sad situation. This was a man who was unharmed. And so there are more than 1,000 ways that they could have de-escalated the situation. So after this man was being killed, the police department said nothing. They went quiet until there was a public outcry. And when the protest started erupting, that was when these officers were fired. So that begs the question, where is the justice for many of these people that have been killed? For me, living in Missouri, same thing happened a couple of years ago in Ferguson, where a black man was being killed, led to up to date, like Ferguson is still trying to recover in Missouri as a result of the protest. There is no way in any form am I in support of any form of violence whatsoever, but people get tired at some point when they realize that are they going to get the justice that the people really deserve?
All right, so you talked about that video of George Flyod, the police officer leaning on the neck of George Flyod. And the police officers say, look, he was resisting arrest. But according to the new reports we're getting, the surveillance video at that moment leading up to George Floyd being pinned down by the police officer didn't show that he was resisting arrest. What do you make of that?
It has been it's part of the long lies being told by the police department. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that all the police officers are terrible. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. It comes with its own hazard. It's part of the danger of that job. But when a police officer commits murder, daylight murder of another man, unarmed man, and come out to say it's because he was resisting arrest. Now that begs the question, how many other black men have been killed in America that have been claimed, quote and unquote, of resisting arrest? So this point right here, I don't really see a way out for the Minnesota Police Department. The Minnesota mayor has come out to speak about this very particular situation. It has been condemned. But I think this whole riot situation would have been avoided if the police department have done the right thing, which the right thing first and foremost was to fire the police officer, which they later did after a lot of protest and complaint by the society. If they've gone ahead and done that, fired him, and he has been charged for murder, I don't think people in Minnesota are unreasonable to a point where they're going to go ahead and start burning properties, start destroying infrastructures in their own community. Because at the end of the day, we have to understand they are going to be the ones to suffer the consequences of the socioeconomic factors of burning down properties and infrastructures in their community. But it gets to a point where I think the black community in America is just tired. They're tired of another black man becoming an hashtag. They're tired of another black man becoming a T-shirt. They're tired of another black man becoming a silent protest. They've tried kneeling down. They had a problem with it. So at this point, they just felt like our hands is tied behind our back. Our face is pushed against the wall. There is really nothing they can do at this point, and they feel like the only language that the Minnesota Police Department and the entire Justice Department is going to understand right now is matching them with the violence, which in any way I don't really support. But let us be critical here. There is a man's life who has been taken for no reason whatsoever. If you have to go back and take account into the situation, same thing happened in Dallas. A woman in her own house, a police officer entered the wrong apartment and shot her in her sleep. So how many of these people, how many of these situations do we want to keep recounting? We complain about the one in Dallas. As of today, there was no concrete decision that was made.
All right,
The one
I
in Georgia
just
is still
allow
going.
me butt in here because you are
Please.
absolutely right. You hear black people in America re-echo that sentiment of we are tired. We just want this to end. But we're also seeing this violence, this protest rather resulting to violence. A police station was burned. Is this the tipping point? Do you think that look, this is enough to change the situation in the U.S.?
I would not really say it is enough to change because U.S. is really really rooted in racism. Uh, Look at Ferguson. There was a lot of protests, a lot of burning, a lot of killing, and all of that. Did it really change anything? Ferguson was years ago, and here we are again in 2020, still talking about the police brutality against black people. Honestly, when you look at how protesters are being matched, when it comes to how police react to protesters, you're going to see a distinct difference. Recently, there were a couple of white people in Detroit, in Michigan. They were complaining about the lockdown, about the COVID lockdown, and they went ahead to the Capitol with guns in their hand, guns attached to their body. Nobody was killed. We didn't hear about any arrest. But when black people come out to say, you are killing us as if our life doesn't matter, even though we all say all life matters, but the question is, in terms of statistics, which race has the highest prone of getting killed by a police officer for doing nothing? As a black man in America, every day you wake up, every day you go out, you have a target on your back. It's an unfortunate situation. But is this gonna bring the lasting change we're looking for? I don't really think so. That's why I say I don't really support the burning and destruction of infrastructures. But I just think people are just at a point where they're really tired and they don't really know what to do anymore.
All right, so obviously this, obviously this is a systemic issue. But let's look at the statement coming from President Trump. He tweeted yesterday that he called the protesters thugs, and he said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. How do you interpret that?
As a person, as an individual, is that a statement you expect from the person who occupies the most powerful seat in the world? That's at this point, if anything at all, the country needs a form of unity, a form of coming together, a form of peace, not more divisions. More languages like that is going to birth more divisions, more killing, more destruction. We're not going to achieve anything as a nation if we keep putting out languages such as that. And back to that statement, right now, Twitter is beginning to fact check some of President Trump's statement. And when he tweeted that statement, one of the headlines that was left, the message that was left by the Twitter administrator, the Twitter Inc., is that messages like these promote more violence, and they're basically not going to delete the message just because they feel like public should know what's going on. So messages like this is definitely going to birth more divisions. Now, let me ask you, I know you don't want to do the question, but this is the question. When people went out in Detroit with guns to protest in the Capitol, did the president come out and call them thugs? The moment you put a label on an African American, it automatically reduces them from human. These are people who have a valid reasons to be angry, but when you say when the looting starts, that is when the shooting starts. I know it sounds like a fancy rhymes, but what you're basically saying is that the life of an average African American doesn't really matter, and they can get killed for protesting.
Ayantoye, why these four
Absolutely.
police officers have been fired from their jobs? They have not been prosecuted. What do you make of that situation, and what do you expect to happen in the coming days?
Firstly, it's unfortunate. Them being fired it's an afterthought. That should have been the first thing that should have happened for any right-minded organization, any right-minded institutions. When people don't adhere to the trainings, the core trainings, and the principles and the values that you try to put out there as an institution, you should fire them. If I go to my job today and I don't follow the laid down institutional rules, I'm going to get fired. So the first thing, they should get fired, and then the second thing should have been the district DA should have immediately started looking into the situation and say, okay, you know what, they've been fired, they've been arrested, and we basically charging them for murder. If that was the step, like it was a swift step towards justice has been taken, I don't think this is going to happen in any way. If anything at all, an average African American is going to be excited that for the first time in many years.
I'm afraid,
like
Ayantoye, we do have to leave it there. Ayantoye Adewale, many thanks for sharing your perspective with us on this issue.